Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Before we get started in today's video, don't forget to join our free Facebook community, get real answers to real credit questions, learn from some of the experts in our industry, as well as from other people that are in similar situations that are taking advantage of the free content, improving their credit and making their credit situation better. Hope to see you guys on the inside.
Hello and welcome back to the Credit Agent Show. On today's episode, we're going to be talking more about hard inquiries. Now, we've talked about them in the past, but on today's episode, we're going to be covering how you can minimize the impact of hard inquiries on your credit report. So, jumping on into hard inquiries, let me just do a brief overview of them. Hard inquiries are anytime you apply for a brand new line of credit, you're going to have your credit score and credit report checked. And each time it is checked by that lender, that is considered a hard inquiry. Now, just one of these on your credit report isn't going to do much to your credit score, but if you apply for too many different types of loans within a short amount of time, those hard inquiries can stack up and actually lower your score. Now, this isn't to say that soft inquiries are going to function like this. Now, a soft inquiry is anytime you personally check your credit score. And it's a common misconception that when checking your own credit score, it can lower your score. That is in fact not going to happen. So once again, talking about these hard inquiries, how can you begin minimizing them? So remember about hard inquiries is that they are pulled and pushed onto your credit report every time you apply for a new line of credit. So the first piece of advice I can give you is don't open accounts rapidly. That is so important. Now, there is something called deduplication logic, which can actually protect you as the consumer from, shopping around and finding the best rates possible. But deduplication logic only functions and serves to benefit you on certain types of loans and not all of them. So for things like credit cards, let's say, each time you apply for a new credit card, that is an independent hard inquiry check. But certain other types of loans, for example, mortgages, car loans, and student loans, are all going to be able to fall under this deduplication logic setting. Now, what do I mean by deduplication logic? I'll dive a little bit more into this, and essentially what it is it allows you to apply for multiple types of loans within a certain amount of time, depending on the type of score you are applying or going for. And because it falls under deduplication logic, all of those rates and hard inquiry checks fall under just one singular check. So it really allows you to find that best rate possible and save you the most and maximum amount of money possible. So another thing to consider as well when it comes to not opening these accounts too quickly is your average length of credit history. Now, with your FICO score, this category comes out to 15% of your overall score. This isn't going to weigh as much as, say, accounts owned or payment history, but if you apply for a lot of new lines of credit, you can really see a score decrease when you have all of these new lines of credit dropping this category. So that is another important thing to note as well. So what you want to do, especially if you're getting new lines of credit and if you're trying to compensate for a lot of hard inquiry checks on your credit report, is improving your score in other areas. We already mentioned the new credit percentage as well as the length of credit history sections are going to be tanking your score a little bit. But you can make this up in other more meaningful categories, like I previously mentioned, accounts owned as well as payment history. So how do you maximize these categories? Well, payment history is going to be 35% of your overall FICO score, and you can really dive on into this category and maximize the benefit from this by making your payments on time in a timely manner and consistently as well. So another way you can really improve that credit score, making up for those hard inquiry checks on your report, is by managing your credit utilization rate. Now, this may sound like old news to you, but it's so important and worth reiterating once again. Keeping that credit utilization rate below 30% will really help your score. And we here at the Credit Agents really recommend that if you can keep it around 7%, that is ideal. So another way you can really improve your credit score is by looking and managing both your credit score and credit report. Now, you have probably looked at your credit score and maybe you're checking it pretty frequently, but you should be doing the same with your credit report. And we generally recommend around once a month to be looking at this. And the reason for this is because it can have early signs of identity theft, as well as any unauthorized, purchases, collections, things like that you can later on dispute. And that leads into what you should have on your credit report, which is only one name and one address. And prior to any disputations, you want to actually get those removed because it makes disputing any collections linked to those addresses or names a lot easier to get removed. Now, one thing you can really do is get pre-approved to a loan prior to actually applying for it. Now, how does this help you exactly? Well, like I mentioned in the previous episode, each time that you apply for a brand new line of credit or loan, it is going to run a hard inquiry check on your account, which can lower your credit score if you get too many of them in too short of an amount of time. But you can get pre-approved for a loan because previously, if you're just applying for loans, you could have a hard inquiry check on your account, and that doesn't even guarantee that you get the loan. So going the pre-approval route will actually make sure that you will 100% get the loan before you apply to it, getting that hard inquiry check. This is great if you fall within that kind of 600 score range where you're not exactly sure if you're going to be able to get the loan that you want, but you want to make sure you don't get that hard inquiry check. So more about these pre-qualification tools. Where exactly can you find them? Well, a lot of the major banks like Chase, American Express, Capital One, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and more all offer these pre-qualification programs. Now, just because you can use these pre-qualification programs doesn't mean you should jump the gun and immediately do them. You still want to make sure you fall into the prerequisites of the type of loan you're applying for. And then once you do the pre-qualification, you can make sure you're going to get that loan prior to even having a hard inquiry check thrusted upon you. Now, they recommend that you, and I'm going to quote from this website here, make your payments on time, update your income and any relevant information that you have, keep card balances low, and check your credit reports. So a lot of the things we already discussed previously apply with pre-qualification loans. It is super important to make sure that everything is in order prior to applying to something like this. That way, you can make sure they're not going to be linked to any other names or addresses you may have on your credit report. So once again, applying for credit, when should you do this? Well, apply for credit only when you need it. Like I said, these hard inquiries can catch up to you pretty quickly. It's super important that you space out these applications. Now, if you're starting fresh with your credit journey, you don't want to get everything immediately because each one of those separate categories will be a separate hard inquiry check on your credit report. So make sure you space these out, and we generally recommend around 6 months because after 6 months is when those hard inquiries will start to drop off, and if they're still on your credit report, they're not going to matter as much. So how many is too many? Well, according to creditglory.com, and I quote, individuals with 6 or more inquiries are 8 times more likely to declare bankruptcy. Like I said, especially for those of you who are just now beginning your credit journey, it can seem very, very easy to apply to all of these separate types of loans. But that doesn't mean you should, because you could drastically decrease your score starting out by doing that. However, and I'm going to reiterate this again, it's so important to check your credit report because you can sometimes catch unauthorized hard inquiries being put on your credit report by maybe somebody else or by mistake. So make sure you're checking your credit report regularly and catch those things early on. So remember, hard inquiries are separate from soft inquiries. You can still check your own credit report and credit score without a detriment to your score. But remember, anytime you're applying for something, that is going to apply a hard inquiry to your report. So thank you so much for tuning on in. This is Michael with the Credit Agents, and you have been watching the Credit Agents Show. We hope to see you guys in the next one.